Good morning everyone, and welcome to a walk to work with WandaVision. And today I am actually walking to work, and I've decided to do WandaVision because I watched it yesterday and I was intrigued. So I decided to add it to my roster of walking reviews. Now, what I was immediately struck by, of course, is the way it's pastiching sitcoms. So the first episode seems to be pastiching 50 sitcoms, although I think the set is straight out of the Dick Van Dyke Show, which started in the early 60s, but of course had more of a 50s sensibility, as things at the beginning of a decade in television tend to do. The second episode, of course, was Bewitched. The set was a total recreation of Samantha and Darren's lounge room. And I really like that because I grew up watching Bewitched, and it's, of course, a really great fit for Wanda, being the Scarlet Witch, to be a sort of surrogate for Samantha. Now, obviously, I like TV shows that play on the fact that they're TV shows and play with the tropes. And while I am aware that Vision and Wanda had a relationship in the comics, they're not characters I followed as a kid. You know, I was more about the X-Men than I was about the Avengers. So I'm coming to this really quite fresh. So for that reason, if you know exactly which comic it's based on and which storyline and how it's going to end, please don't put that in my comments. Be nice. But something I so enjoy here, and this is just a general note, is I'm loving the chemistry between Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. Because something I felt about the Avengers movies is they kind of told me that these two were becoming a couple, and then they were a couple. But with all the other characters the films had to serve, and the action set pieces and the plot points, I felt that their relationship wasn't particularly well developed. It was just sort of there. And also we had very little levity. We had very few humorous moments between them because of the nature of the plots. So it gets a bit more space to breathe here. And I feel like it's structured a bit more like a comic book. You know, if this is going to be 8 episodes or 10 episodes, it's like an 8 or 10 issue comic mini-series. And I really like that. I grew up watching X-Men the animated series, and as much as I enjoy the Marvel movies, I do feel sometimes that episodic television is a better medium to adapt comics in, because comics in themselves are episodic. Just going to cross the road. On a crossing, of course. So I appreciate that we are getting this structure in order to get to know the characters a little bit better. So on to specifics. Episode 1. We've got the classic sitcom trope of inviting the boss around to dinner. And something I really like is they've used the classic sitcom jokes about, you know, the married couple having their little inside jokes, like Vision having an unbreakable head, and they're performed with the same sort of emphasis and vigour as Lucy and Desi might perform their script. So again, I'm talking about structure. The structure remains the same. It's just the words that change. And, you know, we get things like Vision's co-workers referring to him as being like a computer, and of course he doesn't want anyone to know he's a computer. And here's the weird thing. We find out in this episode that Wanda and Vision can't remember how they met, how they got together, where they're from, any of this information. But they do know that they have powers. They do know that Vision is a machine. Wanda remembers Sokovia. So it's not like they've been totally brainwashed. There's just little bits that are sort of hidden from them. And for some reason, it's really important for the boss to know this personal information about them. Also, a great pleasure to see, and I don't know the actress's name, but the mum from that 70s show. I think if you're gonna pastiche sitcoms like this, it really helps to have someone who is famous for being in sitcoms, because that immediately, for viewers who are like, this show's a bit weird, tells them, it gives them something familiar to hang their hat on, basically. I was greatly intrigued by the choking scene, because Mum from that 70s show, at first she's saying to the husband, stop it, stop it, stop it. But then, based on the camera shots, she seems to say it to Wanda, who tells Vision to help him. And then the episode wraps up. The boss pretends like it's been the best dinner party he's ever been to, and walks out. And that gets me thinking, okay, so no matter what else happens, something within the stories compels them to follow the rules of sitcom, and particularly the era in which that sitcom is set. And we also see that in part 2, which is a more direct rip of Bewitched. And here, you know, the whole thing is they've kind of got to hide their powers and give them rational explanations. And the magic show is hilarious for that, because the audience are there for a magic show. They're deeply disturbed by real magic, if you like, and then they are sort of comforted by fake magic, as Wanda sort of demonstrates how the tricks are really done. And look, this was another cracking episode, and I particularly liked, again, her name escapes me, but the neighbour who has been in both episodes so far. A friend of mine did tell me the actress's name and said he really likes her in other things. Hello, James. But I really liked, she's another sitcom trope in that she is the more experienced, worldly woman, doesn't really like her husband. Her husband is the sitcom trope of the unseen character, which, you know, they've been doing forever in sitcoms, because it gives you an extra character to talk about and make jokes about without having to pay an extra actor. But I really like the scene where they're walking over to Emma Caulfield's house. Anya from Buffy is in this. Dottie, I think. They're walking over to her house, and Wanda suggests just being herself, and there's just a moment where her neighbour's face kind of falls, and you get the impression that this would be a really bad thing to have happen. Now, something in the Marvel movies, of course, is everyone being worried about the extent of Wanda's powers, because Wanda is incredibly powerful. I know that much, at least from the comics. And I wonder if it's that. But at the same time, I wonder if it's the fact that whoever these other people are in the sitcom world, they know that the rules have to be followed. And that whole meeting scene, in fact, both meeting scenes are about following rules. You know, Dottie is Queen Bee, and you have to follow Dottie's rules if you want to get anything done. We also meet, I think it's Geraldine in this scene, who is the other woman who says to Wanda, oh, you know, I feel really out of place. And that's interesting, because I wonder if Geraldine is similarly a character who doesn't belong here, is from the real world. Now, as for what I think is going on, it's a bit hard to say. We get that beekeeper stepping out of the sewer at the end. Wanda's pregnant somehow, and it just sort of appears, which is another sort of 50s, 60s sitcom thing. They weren't allowed to talk about how you actually make a baby, so there would be lots of euphemisms. Sometimes the baby would be hidden until it couldn't be anymore. Sometimes it was written in, as with I Love Lucy. But yeah, I think Wanda and Vision are in the village. Now, if you don't know what the village is, I am referring back to a 60s TV series called The Prisoner, with a spy who retires, and he's abducted and taken to this secluded village for ex-spies who basically have dangerous information in their heads. And the whole motivation of taking him there is they want him to tell them why he resigned. So I'm wondering if these people want information from Vision and Wanda about the nature of their powers, about the nature of their relationship, and if Wanda and Vision have obscured that knowledge themselves to avoid telling anyone anything. But we've got that voice on the radio saying, Wanda, who's doing this to you as well, so it seems an odd question. You know, I'd understand Wanda, where are you? But Wanda, who's doing this to you, implies whoever's talking is physically with Wanda, but Wanda is not physically, well, she's physically there, but she's mentally here in the show. Pretty much, this is how you do it. This show is intriguing and interesting, and it makes me want more. And they've decided not to drop the whole series, which is frustrating, but at least that means I get to do these reviews. Now, I would be interested to hear your theories in the comments, but I would request, if you think it's following any specific comic plot line, maybe keep the details on that vague, just because I'm enjoying going in not knowing really much about this, and it bodes well for Marvel's future TV series. And look, like a lot of you out there, I'm hoping they revive the Netflix series. I didn't particularly get into them, but I know a lot of people did. And look, that would be awesome. They've got a ready-made roster of characters and actors that they can call upon. It seems like a no-brainer to me. But as I say, please leave your comments about what you thought about WandaVision 1 and 2 down below. Later today, Australian time, tomorrow UK time, I will be uploading a new episode of Say Something Nice. And also coming this week is my Doctor Who classic series story arcs video. Now, if you would like to like and subscribe, just be aware I more do Doctor Who content on this channel. Not so much Marvel content, but that could change. Who knows? We'll see how this goes. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Keep yourself safe. Remember to wash your hands and wear your mask when you're outside. Cheers.